Hello everyone, and welcome to a new video on the channel. Everyone remembers those Saturday morning cartoons. And if you are too young to remember those, coming home from school, sitting down with a snack, and watching whatever your favorite cartoon is might be the memory you have. For me, one of my favorite cartoons to watch growing up was Rugrats. If you don't know what Rugrats is, it was a show originally starring 4 babies and their adventure of growing up together and trying to learn how the world works. The main character was a boy named Tommy Pickles, alongside his best friend Chucky Finster, and their friends Phil and Lil DeVille, the twins of the group. They would explore the many places their parents took them, or just had fun around the houses they were being watched at. With Tommy's cousin Angelica, the oldest of the children, mainly being the antagonist throughout the show's runtime. With her being the only child of both successful parents, she was just as spoiled as she was bratty. While watching the show mindlessly, just getting lost in the beauty of the 90s, I also grew up hearing a theory on the Rugrats. Before I get into that theory, there are a couple of other people you should know about first. Mainly speaking, the parents of the children. Stu and Dee Dee Pickles, father and mother to Tommy Pickles, and, later on down the line, Dill Pickles. Yes, I know, Dill Pickles. Drew and Charlotte Pickles, father and mother to Angelica, with Drew being Stu's brother. Howard and Betty DeVille, parents of Phil and Lil, having been longtime friends of the Pickles, and Chaz Finster. Chaz being the childhood friend of Stu Pickles, they all spent a majority, if not all the time together, or separately, watching all the other kids in the group. We've already spoken about Dill and how he comes in later, but a few years after the start of the show, a new character is introduced, who also plays a large role in the show, and would remain a part of the show until it ended, August 1st, 2004. Her name? Susie Carmichael, daughter of Randy and Lucy Carmichael, with her siblings of Elisa, Edwin, and Buster Carmichael. Susie's siblings don't really play too big of a role in this theory, so with the main 6 characters focused on, we can now get to the theory. Just don't forget about Dill Pickles. He comes into play later. Now, with this theory, the Rugrats were really a fragment of Angelica's demonic and unimaginable imagination. Chucky dies in 1986, along with his mother, and that's why Chaz is a nervous wreck all the time. Tommy was born in 1988, but he was stillborn. That's why Stu is constantly in the basement making toys for the son who never had a chance to live. The DeVilles had an abortion in 1990. Angelica couldn't figure out whether it was a boy or a girl, thus creating the twins. As for All Grown Up, the sequel show to Rugrats, the teenage Angelica became addicted to various narcotics, which further aggravated her schizophrenia, bringing her back to her childhood and thus the creations she obsessed over. Because of time lapse between the present and the last time she interacted with her creations, she made them older. Angelica was constantly taking hits of acid, so she would never have to live without her creations, who were her only company. In a judgmental world, Angelica's mom actually died of a heroin overdose in 1982. Just after Angelica was born. And Drew, in his depression, married a gold-digging that Angelica idolized because she fooled herself into thinking it was her real mom, but always had a concept of her mom, Cynthia. She took a Barbie doll and made it after her mom's image, wearing an unwashed orange dress and having jacked up hair, which is why she was so attached to it. Later in life, she followed in her mom's footsteps with drugs and everything else, dying of an overdose at the age of 13 when All Grown Up was quote-unquote cancelled. The only Rugrat not to be fictional, however, was unborn Tommy's brother, Dill. However, Angelica didn't know the difference between Dill and her creations, although Dill didn't follow her commands. After endless crying and a refusal to disappear like the others did when Angelica was angry with them, she hit him. Due to this, he sustained a brain hemorrhage, which resulted in a deformation. As he grew up, his damage only became more evident, and by the time he was 9 and all grown up, he lived as an outcast, being ridiculed for his weirdness and retardation. The immense guilt over this is what led Angelica to her drug use, and is what led Angelica to uncreate the Rugrats briefly, until her experience with hallucinogenics. On a trip to Paris to find love, Chaz married a woman named Kira, who had a daughter named Kimmy that was torn from her because she was a cocaine addict. Angelica even imagined Kimmy, strictly from the stories that Kira would tell about her. Chaz lost his mind after the death of his wife, and was in denial that she was ever a prostitute. Upon return to America, Chaz and Kira married and she got her green card. This was actually a really happy and romantic story. Kira, however, continuously struggled with her addiction, but was relatively happy with her life in Chaz. Susie was actually Angelica's only friend, who entertained the thought of Angelica's creations for her sake. Angelica spent the last days of her life in the back of the school cafeteria, imagining friends around her and playing with the lives of her creations. No, unlike most theories, this one was actually debunked as false. This story was truly just a story about kids trying to figure out the inner workings of the world. My name is Willow The Schizo, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. If not, maybe you too are only a figment of my imagination.